What's up, guys? We're going to talk about how to get better at jiu-jitsu today, especially when you feel like you're terrible. So this is something that kind of goes back to our grade school days where we can use a very simple metaphor to understand why we're failing in jiu-jitsu and what we can do to be successful. My name is Chris Matakas. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt school owner. I've written 13 books about using jiu-jitsu as a vehicle for personal development. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a really good understanding as to why you feel like you're not making progress and what you can do to change that and be successful. So I was never really much into school growing up, and I remember science classes where we would do our science experiments and we would learn the scientific method, which now I realize is one of the greatest advances in humanity, but you didn't understand it when you were in third grade. So you'd run a random experiment, testing a hypothesis, you collect data, and you go from there based on your observation. So jujitsu is running experiments constantly. So here's what happens. We have a hypothesis. Man, I want to use this X guard and try to hit this sweep. We run the experiment. We try to play X guard and hit that sweep. Whatever happens in the roll is the data we collect, the feedback we get from that experiment. And in that observation, we integrate the lesson. We're a little bit better, a little bit more informed. And then we run another experiment, maybe even in that roll. That's all we're doing ever. We have a hypothesis, we run an experiment, we collect the data, we integrate the lesson and move on. The problem is we are all very bad at collecting the data. And the cool thing about jujitsu is you are constantly presented with like an endless flow of information telling you the efficacy of what it is you're doing or the lack of efficacy of what it is you're doing. And I believe that as a community, we actually do a really poor job of collecting the data. We all have a plan going in and we all train and run the experiment, but we don't really pay attention to the ways in which we fail and to the invaluable feedback our partner gives us. So if you feel like you're kind of stuck and not getting better, and as people say, like, man, I feel like I suck at jiu-jitsu, I believe it's because you can't not run an experiment. If you're training, you're running experiments. But what you suck at is your ability to collect the data from the experiments. And really the simplest way is to increase our ability to pay attention to the role, to ask questions to our partners as to why this worked or why it did not work, and just to go slow enough that you allow yourself to see. I think for most of us, we kind of have this like athlete's mind where we try to use our physicality and we just train too hard, too fast, and we don't give ourselves the opportunity to collect data. So when I have a student come to me and they say exactly this, like, man, I want to improve, but I feel like I suck, I always have them focus on the collecting data standpoint. Keep doing whatever it is you're doing, but now let's actually understand the feedback we're getting so we can use that feedback to run a more sophisticated experiment in the future. And I believe this is the fundamental action pattern that you will do to consistently improve and grow in jiu-jitsu. And whether you're a first day white belt or a 10-year black belt, fundamentally the behavior process is the same. So I would encourage all of us to focus on the collection of data because therein lies our success. So I hope this was useful. I hope this was helpful. And I'll talk to you guys soon.